Hello everybody, welcome back to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. My name is Jake, and the topic of today's video is how to use word walls, and what are word walls I should say, but how to use them in your social studies classes. So in this video, we are going to discuss what word walls are, why you should consider using word walls in your classroom, how word walls can help your students, and also how do the word walls practically help you. So we're going to try to get all these in here today. So first things first, what are word walls? If you've never used them before or heard of the concept, word walls are essentially just your vocabulary words for your unit put onto pieces of paper or put onto like posters that you hang up on your wall, hence word wall, that include the definition of the word that you are learning, or words I should say, that you are using in your unit, and then also a picture next to each of the words. And all of these vocab words are on separate pictures. So if you have a unit where you have 20 vocabulary words, then you'd have 20 posters for your word wall. So why should you consider using word walls? You might have heard the phrase, no matter what teacher you are, that all teachers are vocabulary teachers, because part of all of our missions, whether you are a social studies teacher or in any other subject area, is you're teaching your students new words, new terms that they haven't learned before. And there actually have been studies done that show in social studies textbooks that they identify more words as vocabulary for your students to learn than ELA, math, and science combined, whether it's elementary school, middle school, or high school. Social studies textbooks identify more vocabulary words than the other three core subjects combined. So vocabulary is especially important in social studies, and consequently, word walls might end up playing a bigger role in social studies than in some other classes, because you're going to be looking at potentially some really difficult primary sources. If you are a world history teacher, for example, I can say that from experience, or even in US history, even terms from 200 years ago. Like for example, if you look at the Bill of Rights, some of the vocabulary that's used in there, the way things are phrased, not common language to your everyday middle schooler or high schooler. So word walls are incredibly important in helping to break down and emphasize what those words are, so that way students can access those more difficult passages. Heck, even access your textbooks. So how can you actually use the word wall to improve vocabulary comprehension? Do I just stick it up on the wall and it just does its thing and I don't have to do anything? Well, I mean, no, you still have to do something beyond that. But one useful thing about a word wall is that throughout the course of your unit, the words that are important for your students to be using and to be working with, they are there in one central location for everybody in the class to access. Now, some students are going to be based or sitting closer to the word wall than others. That's true. There's some logistics that you have to consider there. Theoretically, they are accessible to everybody in your class. Another reason that word walls are really beneficial, they particularly support visual learners. So your students that maybe don't do as well just hearing you talk about a concept, or they maybe don't do as well just reading about a concept, they might do a little bit better in understanding the vocab if they can actually see the image next to the definition of the word. And they can start building those connections, linking the images with the definitions if they are seeing that every single day for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, however long your particular unit of study is. And it also just helps all students, because a lot of us are just visual people, so it's another mode of learning that you're engaging by having those word walls up, besides just reading about it in a textbook. So word walls are very, very flexible, so you can use them in several different ways. Word walls can be used to introduce vocab at the beginning of the unit, so you might put it up at the very start of the unit or in the first couple of days, so that way it's that reference point, like I mentioned, throughout the course of your unit that you can constantly come back to when you're teaching about a particular concept, or hey, look over at the word wall, this is the word that we're learning about, and this is how it's related to the topic that is under discussion. Or you can use the word wall as a way to review terminology at the end of the unit, or you can even build your word wall throughout the course of the entire year. So for example, if you're teaching about Mesopotamia, you could take off all of those words then if you're going into your ancient Egypt unit, so that way you're just focused on those particular words. Or you could potentially keep up those Mesopotamia related words and then add the words for your ancient Egypt up there to be side by side. This might make even more sense if you're looking at a history class for a particular specific country. So for example, US history teachers, you might build that word wall throughout the entire year. So that way students can see when you're on your unit, for example, about the Civil War, if you're teaching early American history, they can go all the way back and see those words that you learned about when you learned about the first Americans, the first indigenous people, or from the Revolution era unit, or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of flexibility and customization that you can use with these word walls. And so finally, how does the word wall practically help you? Well, number one, if you have that awkward wall in your room that you really don't know what you want to do with, voila, you have a word wall that you can use to cover that space. And you can make that word wall however big or however small that you want based on your needs and based on the size of your classroom and your instruction choices and so on and so forth. And also, let's be honest, that word wall is going to really impress your admin, your principal, your instructional specialist, people who are evaluating you. It just looks good to see that you've got all of the vocabulary words that you're teaching throughout the year, particularly if you're building it, well, either way, whether it's just showing what you're focusing in on for the unit, whether it's showing everything that you've accomplished over the course of the year. For your students, it's fascinating and awesome because they can see a visual of how much they've accomplished and learned over the year. And also for those admin and those instructional specialists, they've got a visual piece of proof showing how much your students are learning too, and shows how much that you're teaching them and how dang good of a job you're doing. So there's also that little incentive there as well for you. All right, so that's essentially what a word wall is, how it benefits your students, how it benefits you. So if you are excited about using word walls, you just can't wait to get started, but you don't feel like making your own word walls, we got you covered. In the links below, we've got word walls for ancient civilizations and world history. If you teach US history, if you teach specifically like a US Gov type of class or Constitution, we've got those. If you need basic geography terms, we've got those. If you need basic social studies words overall, we've got those too. Check them all out down below. Take whatever you need. Decorate your classroom. Impress your admin. Most importantly, help your students learn vocabulary because clearly there's a lot. If you are new around here, welcome. We hope that you enjoyed the video. We hope that you stick around for more. You can click on some of our other videos that are here and here. As I said, the word wall materials are all in the link down below. And I hope that you have a wonderful day and I hope to see you again. Bye.